But if I complain, I don't know where God is. How come God doesn't heal me? But He healed the sister that they always pray for her. Is it that the pastor loved her more? Is it because she's been given more offering? That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it. Whether God heals me or not, whether God provides or not, He is still God. And He will forever be God. So when we put a praise report as we walk through the desert, oh, I'm about to pass this test. I'm about to go through my desert. But I know that at the end of the desert, it's not going to be another desert. I think God is going to give me a way out. And that's the difference between those who see a half a glass of water, halfway empty or halfway full. And you ask different people, can you tell me how? Some will tell you, oh, that's half empty, it's not full. It's not full. Others will tell you, it's half full. And it depends on the perspective you put onto the situation. Also, it is important that we go through the desert. Why? Because sometimes I think about Abraham's story. And I know the Bible tells us that God spoke to Abraham. But I tell you one thing. Sometimes I wonder if God also, although the Bible doesn't mention it, if God chose Abraham because Sarah, carrying her womb, the miracle of the impossible. Sometimes I wonder if I was to compare ratios or compare elements. Okay, Abraham's faith, but what about Sarah? What about Sarah? What about the womb that was marked for life? Was marked for life, not to bear fruit. What about Sarah's womb? That if this word that God was given to Abraham, that would mean that Sarah's womb was the womb of the miracle. So when you take your spouse, even if she is marked with the impossible, or maybe not your spouse, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's not your wife, maybe it's your husband, or maybe it's not your husband, maybe it's your finances, maybe it's anything else. Whenever the impossible makes its face known, you got to look beyond the impossible. You don't know if that impossibility really is an opportunity for a miracle. And it is important that we don't get stuck in the situations that surround us, but that we move forward. Now, if we say, why go through the desert? Why is it that the desert university is so important? Why is this higher level of education? Because in the Old Testament as well as in the New Testament, people went through desert experience. Did you know that God, in a way, when He sent His Son, God exiled Himself from His glory. He left it all up there. And He put Himself in an environment foreign to the glory in heaven. And He did it for you and me. Then when He got here, He subjected Himself to being tempted in the desert. Imagine that. Even God subjecting Himself to a desert training for your sake and my sake. When you go through your desert experience, and I don't know what your desert experience might be. It might be a difficult situation with your family. It might be anything. Think about the moments where you felt alone. Think about the moments where no one understood you. Think about the moments where you pray and it seemed like God didn't answer. Sometimes God doesn't answer the way you want Him to answer. Sometimes He just quietly walks by your side. And if you stop, He stops. And He pushes you. And He pushes you. And situations make you move forward. Because all you want to do, and all I want to do is go back to Egypt, where the tacos are ready, where we don't have to cook, We don't have to work. That's easy. But every time you find yourself in a very difficult situation, with the understanding that the situations that surround us is not because we bring them upon ourselves. And even though we bring them upon ourselves, that which you think it was the wrong decision that you made or that I made will teach me a lesson, will mold my character, will reshape me. God doesn't forsake me. Even if I make the wrong business decision, God does not forsake me. I have to learn my lesson, but God doesn't forsake me. Oh, what a bad God I am. How foolish I am. I made the wrong. Move on. Say with me, move on. Stop having a pity party. Move on. God's still with you. God's still with us. We must move on. Now, I want to finish with this. I made up a list of graduates who graduated from the desert campus. Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Elijah, Jeremiah, John the Baptist, Paul, John. They all went through their own desert training. But the ultimate graduate for me is Jesus. It's Jesus. Now I need you to look at the person to your left or to your right. And I need you to tell them, you're the next upcoming graduating class. Come on. You got to say it with conviction. You're next in line to graduate. You are next in line to graduate. You will not stay in the desert. God will not forsake you. But we must go through the desert. And you know, when God called the Hebrews, when Moses went before Pharaoh, when you read the story, it says that God was calling them to go to the desert so they can worship Him. Have you read that? They didn't go to Pharaoh to say, is that God promised a land of milk and honey, and God is going to give us an inheritance as His heirs. No. It says that they were going to go to the wilderness to worship Him. And my final words will be the following. The most memorable or the most shaping moments are not the moments where you are in abundance. The moments where God reveals Himself in such a way that catch your attention are not those when you're partying, when you're having fun, when you're enjoying a lot of blessings. But the most difficult moments have produced the most beautiful songs on earth. But in the same fashion, the most difficult moments are the moments that shape you and that mold your faith. So the next time you and I ask for prayer because we're going through a difficult moment, let's say it with thanksgiving. I'm going to ask you to please bow your heads.